Don't forget, we're now 6 to 10 on the Talk of the Town. Woo-hoo. Expanding from our 3-hour show to a 4-hour show, just like the big boys. And we're proud to do it. So today was our first day of a 4-hour show. And we're rolling along with our next guest. It's Gary Colarusso, the councilman from Kirkland. How are you, sir?
I'm great. How are you guys this morning?
What a voice he has. I wish I had his voice. I don't have a grown-up radio voice. I got a wimpy voice there. But, Gary, you call into the show from time to time. Good to meet you in person.
Well, it's a pleasure. And I have to say that there's a lot less steps to get into this studio than the other one. So that's a good thing.
Yeah. A little bit more security, though.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. That's right. My fingerprints and the retina scan didn't bother me at all.
We got you. We'll give your shoes back at the end of the interview.
Thank you.
Don't expect clearance every time, though. All right. We know your background, sir. What'd you do over the weekend? Anything important or special?
No, actually, it's that time of the year where, although leaves aren't down, but it's preparation.
Yeah.
It's all about preparation to live up here, so it's time to start.
Yeah, we were starting the same process at our house, too. Of course, my wife and I have mentioned before we got married in your town there at the Kirkland Arts Center, which is a fantastic little facility there, and all the other businesses surrounding the green there. One of the jewels of central New York, I think.
The village of Clinton actually sits right in the center of the town of Kirkland, and it's kind of the center point for a lot of people that are passing through, going from Utica and south or coming up. And we always like to have people stop by and take in the scenery, take in the town. It's a great place to live. It's a great place for the kids to grow up. The school system's really nice, and the community is open. So I'm glad you were there, and come back again.
Oh, we do often, actually. We love the restaurants there. We love showing up to the farmers market. I don't know if does that still exist now?
Every Thursday. I think it's drawing to a close, though, pretty soon.
For sure.
Yeah. One of the most fantastic parks, I think. Kirkland Town Park is just a great space.
They take great pride in managing that park. It was a purchase of a number of years ago. It was a vacant farmland, and the town of Kirkland decided that would be a place where people could go. There's some softball fields, there's soccer fields, and it's just a wonderful place to go out and take a walk. We're pretty proud of that.
Now you got to get Hamilton College football team off the losing schneid up there. I think they're 22 in a row now.
Well, I'm sorry. That's all their business up there.
Up on the hill.
Up on the hill. We do the best we can down on the bottom of the hill.
Sure. And then the new businesses coming. I know Frank Elias and Heather from Utica Coffee Roasting are going to be opening up, I'd say, about a week from now, right?
Pretty soon. And the community, there's a real buzz. No pun intended here, but there's a real buzz regarding that. It's really great to see established business come into the area. That corner has been known for coffee shops, and Hemstrass was there years and years ago, and it's going to be I think it'll be a real gathering spot for people to come in, get probably the greatest coffee they'll ever drink out of that location, and get to meet Frank and Heather and that whole crew of people that'll be there. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I think Aaron, our buddy Aaron, is going to go be kind of running that facility for Frank and Heather, if I'm not mistaken. Also, the interesting story about the folks who are converting the Clinton newspaper there to an online organization. That's a good story, too.
Well, I'm of the age where I like to have paper in my hand. And I talked with John, who's the gentleman that owns the paper. He thinks that this is an improvement in being able to communicate with people. It'll be it's coming up soon. I think in another week or so it'll be up and running. It'll be a daily entrance onto the internet. And unfortunately, like many papers, small papers, even larger papers, are either curtailing their printing or stopping it altogether. And I think this was more of a financial decision, and it was a hard one for him to come and make. But I think it was a financial decision, and we'll see. I've applied for it to come over and get it, and if it's the kind of news that was in the paper when it was in print, then it should go over well.
Talking to Gary Colarusso, the councilman from the Kirkland town, and also in Clinton there. And you call him our Gary, Jay. Why is that? Why do you refer to him as our Gary?
Well, Gary's been a great supporter and listener of the show, and something that you brought up. I'm not sure if it was beginning of on or off the air, but Gary does make some great points, and a lot of times thinking out of the box, and bringing up some issues that maybe other folks didn't really think of off the top of the head. And actually, I think that leads us, to what he is here for today, because something you don't see is few and far between. But you're talking about this public forum, which brings the community and the officials in the town of Kirkland together to learn a little bit more about what government does and the folks in the community do. So, Gary, thanks, I guess, for being our Gary and giving us some of that.
Well, that's quite a distinction, and I appreciate the our Gary distinction. It is. It's trying to get people together with government. I've said this. I say it all the time that government is not a spectator sport. You have to become involved with it in some way, shape, or form. And it doesn't mean you have to go to all the meetings. It doesn't mean anything like that at all. But it does mean that you elected me and folks like me throughout the county, throughout the United States. But you elected people to do a job, and that's maintain some character in your government, maintain some character and responsibility in your community. And I can speak directly for the town of Kirkland, and I think we achieved that. A lot of times people don't feel comfortable coming into a traditional board meeting. Maybe it's a little more strict for them, or maybe it's they see people sitting up in the front of the room and it's hard for them to speak. This is an open forum. This is a relaxed atmosphere. There'll be a moderator. There'll be refreshments served. And the idea is for folks in the community, in fact, anyone outside of the community, anybody that's listening today, that event is scheduled for tonight. But anyone that's listening is certainly welcome to come. It'll give people an opportunity to meet elected officials. There'll be our town supervisor, our 4 board members, the gentleman who's our police chief. Although he's not a elected official, he's certainly part of the government of the town of Kirkland. Receiver of taxes, our highway department our highway superintendent, our 2 judges that sit in our court. Let's say I said receiver of taxes, and possibly our town clerk. So those are the folks that are going to be there. And if I left anybody out, I apologize.
So don't be a spectator. Get involved,
get involved
as a participant tonight. By the way, at the Kirkland Town Library this evening, correct?
It starts at 6:45. There'll be refreshments served, and again, it's very low key. It's a personable kind of town hall atmosphere. Each one of us will have a few minutes to describe what we actually do in our elected positions, and then the floor will be open for questions. And I urge people to take a few minutes out of their evening tonight. Let the Monday Night Football go for a little bit. You'll be able to see it when you get home.
That's a lousy game anyway. It's the winless Detroit Lions against the Seattle Seahawks, who have injuries riddled with their roster. Right. So you don't need to see that.
So it's a geriatric game tonight. Then. But there should be some good conversation. And again, it puts a face to your government, and it lets us know what you're talking about, what you're thinking about. And I think people look at government as something above them. Certainly, larger government has not enjoyed the best of the best PR. I think small government, I think town government is where government works the best. The people sitting in the front of the room are the people that are your neighbors. We don't have the layers of bureaucratic nonsense that some governments do, and the bigger the better. I think in this case, the smaller the better.
Well, and what people also fail to remember sometimes is that you guys who are doing this for a job are just average folks yourselves. Yep. And like, what were you doing before you became a councilman?
Well, I worked for Coca-Cola as a route salesman for almost 26 years. I was a business agent, a vice president of the Teamsters organization for 6 years. Worked for the Central New York Labor Agency. I've been involved in labor, either performing it, representing it, or instructing it for many, many years. Yeah. Our town supervisor runs a meat market. He's Mealan's Market in Clark Mills. One of our councilmen is a sheriff. So
you're not an intimidating figure at all.
No,
you're
not
a friendly
at all.
guy.
I'm just the guy. I'm just the guy that happens to be sitting in a big chair. That's all.
Well, I think we get that sometimes in the radio industry too, where people think that we're quote unquote stars, and we're not. We're just average folks. So we pick up the dog poop in our yard and rake the leaves and do everything else.
Oh, well, I moved that to my neighbor's yard. I don't do that.
Yeah.
So that's the event of the evening. We'll be there at 6:45. Please come. Please take part in this. It's there for your purpose, just like government is there for your purpose. And we'll be out of there by 8:30 or so. Come and go as you please. But I think it's a good opportunity for people to meet their government and see that we are just regular people, and we do the best we can with what we've got.
All right, Gary, you mentioned good conversation and your talk here. Is that what brought this about? What was the idea of sitting down with all these folks and saying, let's do this?
I think one of the things that becomes painfully obvious to us as government, as elected officials for our town, is the complacency that happens to leach into government at every level. Mm-hmm. We're noticing that with elections. I think you see a lot of elections now that are going unopposed. I noticed you had the county executive on earlier this morning. He's running as an unopposed candidate. Mm-hmm. I think it's important that we have people involved. Should they want to try to change government, should they want to see different aspects of government brought forward? So that involvement starts with just attending a meeting, just seeing what happens there. And we see it in our meetings as well. Maybe on a regular basis we have 8 to 10 people that are regulars that show up at our board meeting. Mm-hmm. Outside of a larger maybe community issue like the flooding that took place during 2 years ago, mm-hmm. which many people, I mean, the town hall was filled to capacity. But issues of that kind of bring a community together, and they look for their government to give them answers. But on a regular basis, we've seen the decline of people attending regular board meetings. I try and attend as many of the county legislative meetings as I can, and there's a regular group of people, not more than maybe 10 or 15, outside of the regular governmental folks that are there for purpose, but as spectators, so to speak, and to watch what takes place. And I know that it's held during the day, and sometimes it's difficult for people to attend. But it is, you know, everything. It's a downhill. You know, it starts with the federal government, it goes to the state government, and from the state to the county, and the county to the towns and the cities, and it ends in our laps sometimes. Mm-hmm. And we're the folks that have to deal with that as that progression of government diminishes down to us. It's important that people come to know what we're trying to do is for the betterment of the entire community and not a few.
Yeah, we enjoy traveling in and around the entire area. My wife and I and our kids were from Rome to Utica to your town of Kirkland and Clinton, and we get all over the place. Have you studied enough or heard enough about the discussion regarding the downtown hospital location here in Utica to have an opinion on that quickly?
Well, I called the show the other day and voiced an opinion on that, and more is being divulged. Mm-hmm. I wanted to make sure that that these questions are asked, because this is the perfect time to ask these questions, not after it's built and then go, uh-oh. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to make sure that people ask questions like, in the purpose of consolidation, I mean, the idea of consolidation is supposed to do two things. One is to cut cost, and the other to provide service, either equal to or greater than what you're used to.
Right.
And is that truly what's going to happen in this case? On one interview I heard say that we were going to reduce some of the labor costs and consolidate this into one particular building, and that's a great thing. And then in another interview I heard that this was going to improve the employment picture, and we were going to be hiring a lot of folks. Coming from a labor background, it's a rare occasion that you can hire more people and reduce labor costs. Mm-hmm. So, you know, those are questions that come into my mind. Are we taking valuable property off the tax rolls and replacing that with a non-taxable entity? Everybody, whether you like it or not, government runs off. It doesn't run off of profit. It runs off of tax dollars. And without those tax dollars, we don't have an effective government. It costs money for infrastructure, for plowing roads, for et cetera. And those are all the things that we derive that from tax income. Does that hurt the city of Utica in any way in regards to taxable income? But I think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea that we're centralizing. But I also have the idea that this could be like a Time Warner. It's the only game in town, and what do you do at that point? People should have, and most times require, a choice as to where health care is provided, how it's provided, and this might have a negative effect in that. But these are all questions that should be asked now, not when they're cutting the ribbon in front of the building.
Good points. Yeah. Most important, how do we divide up the sweets that you brought us in today here?
Well, I know Samantha was looking at them pretty good when I came in. Yeah. You know, there's the old expression that music soothes the savage beast. I always found that pastries soothe the savage beast.
It's the way to my heart, Gary.
I know.
I'm not great at math, but I think 2/3 goes to me.
Well, I don't know. See, I'm looking. There's 4 microphones in this studio, and there are 4 pieces of delicious apple cake from Utica bread company. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys.
Thanks.
We'll be fighting over.
All right.
Gary, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.